It was a Tuesday in April when I arrived at Dom Pedro II School, where I've worked for 28 years as a cleaning staff member. I woke up at 5 a.m., as always, made my coffee with buttered bread, and headed out for another day of work. At 63, my body felt the weight of the years, but I was proud of my service. That morning, something was different. The principal, Professor Marsha, called me into her office early. Dona Carmen, there's an important meeting today at the school. Some inspectors from the Department of Education are coming to evaluate our facilities. I need you to pay special attention to the auditorium's cleanliness. Of course, Professor. You can count on me. The auditorium was a space I knew like the back of my hand. How many times had I cleaned it after plays, parent meetings, graduations? I grabbed my cart with all the supplies, rags, detergent, wax, broom, mop. I started working at 8 a.m. First, I organized all the chairs, which were messy from the previous night's theater performance. Then, I carefully swept each row, picking up papers, chewing gum stuck under seats, and snack crumbs. Around 9:30 a.m., as I was mopping the floor in front of the stage, on my knees to reach the corners better, I heard voices at the auditorium entrance. "Hello, please come in," said a voice I didn't recognize. "This is our main auditorium." I looked up and saw 3 men in suits entering. They seemed to be the inspectors. One of them, a bald man in his 50s, looked at me with clear displeasure. "Excuse the inconvenience," he said, addressing the others. "It seems the cleaning isn't finished yet." I quickly stood up, holding the wet mop. "Excuse me, sirs. I'm almost done." The bald man stared at me disdainfully. What a lack of organization. They shouldn't allow the cleaner to be here during our visit. I felt my face burn with shame. "I apologize. I'll leave right away." "That's right," said another, a younger man with glasses. "These people have no sense of decorum. They're just kneeling on the floor like they're begging." The third one chuckled. "Truly embarrassing. Imagine if this were a visit from important authorities." I started gathering my supplies, my hands trembling with humiliation. 28 years at that school, always treated with respect by teachers and students, and now these men made me feel like I was less than nothing. The bald man called. "When you finish there, could you also clean the hallway? It has some marks on the floor." "Yes, sir," I replied softly, avoiding eye contact. I left the auditorium pushing my cart, still hearing their laughter. In the hallway, I met Professor Marsha. "Dona Carmen, how's the cleaning coming along?" "I've finished, Professor. Those gentlemen said to clean the hallway too." She frowned. "Which gentlemen?" "The inspectors from the department. They're in the auditorium." A strange smile appeared on her face. "Ah yes, the inspectors. Perfect. You can continue with the hallway then. I'll need you back in the auditorium soon." I spent the whole morning cleaning the hallways, still feeling the bitter taste of humiliation. Students passed by and greeted me warmly, as always. "Good morning, Dona Carmen."
"Hi, Carminha."
This eased my sadness a little. At 11:30 a.m., Professor Marsha found me again. "Dona Carmen, I need you to go to the auditorium now. There's a surprise waiting." "Professor, are those men still there?" "Because they were quite." "Go, Dona Carmen. It's important." I returned to the auditorium with a heavy heart. But when I opened the door, I couldn't believe what I saw. The auditorium was completely packed. Teachers, staff, students, former students, parents. Everyone standing, applauding. On the stage, there was a huge banner, 28 years of dedication, a tribute to our dear Carmen Santos. I stood frozen at the doorway. Professor Marsha approached with a microphone. "Dona Carmen, please come to the front." I walked towards the stage, completely confused, still holding my cleaning rag. The applause didn't stop. "My dears," the principal began, "today we are here to honor a very special person. Carmen Santos has worked at our school for 28 years. In that time, she was not just our cleaning staff. She was a mother, a counselor, a friend." Tears started rolling down my face. Carmen comforted crying students, helped struggling teachers, worked weekends when we needed her. She knows every corner of this school, every story within these walls. Professor Joao, the math teacher, took the microphone. Dona Carmen taught me more about dedication than any book. When my daughter studied here and was going through a difficult time, you were the one who noticed and warned me. Ana Clara, a former student, now a medical doctor, approached. Dona Carmen, do you remember when I cried in the bathroom because I was being bullied? You always had kind words, always protected me. You were part of my growth as a person. I couldn't stop crying. Several students went up to the stage with flowers, posters, and drawings. But Dona Carmen, the principal continued, there's a special surprise. The 3 gentlemen you met this morning were not inspectors from the department. My heart stopped. The 3 men who had humiliated me walked onto the stage. The bald man took the microphone, now with a completely different expression. Carmen, I offer my deepest apologies. I am Paulo, a theatre director. Principal Marcia asked me to stage a scenario to test how you would react to a disrespectful situation. I was speechless. We wanted to see if you would maintain your dignity even when treated poorly. And you passed the test with flying colors. Your demeanor, your politeness, your humility impressed us. The second man continued, I am Carlos, a former student of this school. I graduated here 15 years ago. You didn't recognize me, but I remember your kind words when I was just a shy boy. The third introduced himself, and I am Roberto, a student's father. My daughter always talks about Dona Carmen with such affection that I wanted to be part of this tribute. Professor Marcia returned to the microphone. Dona Carmen, during these 28 years, you have shown that dignified work is not about the position we hold, but about the love we put into what we do. They brought a chair for me on the stage, as my legs were shaky. You taught generations of students about respect, dedication, and humility. Therefore, today, we want to announce that the auditorium will now be named Auditorium Carmen Santos. A plaque with my name was lowered from the ceiling. I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. One by one, students, teachers, and staff came to hug me. I received dozens of cards, flowers, handmade gifts. Dona Carmen, said Miguel, a third-year student, you always greeted me by name, even though I was just one among hundreds of students. That made a difference in my life. Professor Sandra, the Portuguese teacher, hugged me. How many times did you stay late to help me organize materials for classes? You never complained, always smiling. When I finally managed to speak, I took the microphone with trembling hands. I don't know what to say. I never imagined my work meant so much to you. My voice faltered, but I continued. I always thought I was just someone who cleaned. Today I discovered that, unknowingly, I was building something much greater. Thank you for showing me that there's no small job when it's done with love. The ovation was deafening. More than an hour passed before everyone could greet me. In the end, when the auditorium emptied, I stood alone, looking at the plaque with my name. Professor Marcia approached. Dona Carmen, you deserve every word said here today. Professor, why did you stage that scene this morning? Because we wanted to show how you react to disrespect. Your dignity, even when treated poorly, proved that a person's character has nothing to do with their profession. That night, I went home with a heart overflowing. I called my children to tell them about the tribute. They cried with emotion. On Monday, when I arrived at work, there was a line of students waiting for me at the entrance, all wanting to hug me. The auditorium, now Auditorium Carmen Santos, had my photo at the entrance. I learned that day that the humiliation I felt in the morning was necessary to appreciate the afternoon's tribute even more. And that, sometimes, the most important people are those who go unnoticed in everyday life, but who, with their quiet and loving work, touch dozens of lives without even realizing it.